There you go.
I'd like to call the Meadow City Council regular meeting of June 7th, 2022 to order. The invocation will be given by Councilperson Dowling.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling. Here. Mr. Freeman.
Here.
Mr. Kirschner.
Here.
Mr. Krieger.
Here.
Mr. Marne.
Here.
Mr. Blake.
Here.
Mr. Donovan.
Here. Approval of minutes, May 17, 2022. Council, you are in receipt of that?
Move to approve the work session minutes from May 17, 2022.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes. You are also in receipt of the May 17, 2022 regular meeting.
Move to
Council,
approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes. Council, we do have a public hearing tonight, ordinance number 22-0-038. Julie will read that.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of conditional use permits to allow expanded restaurant/bar, expanded outdoor dining/drinking area, and for temporary events located at 7338 Industrial Park Boulevard, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I'm going to slip this in there. This public hearing is now called to order and is being held pursuant to notice duly published and posted according to the law. The chair reads, you already read it? Okay.
Good.
Let's see what we got. Is the applicant present? Would you like to comment?
I'd like to speak for the motion.
Please come to the mic and tell us your name and address.
Hi, Kelsey Servinskas, 29931 Chardon Road, Willoughby Hills, 44094. I would like to speak for the motion for the expansion. It's just a small little private area where we can have retirement parties and birthday parties and kind of continue the catering that Mom started in Lake County so long ago. So
About older people, birthday parties.
that's the best
you do
kind.
those
That's
too?
usually what we have. We're like
That's-
adult Chuck E.
That's
Cheese.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kelsey. Are there any comments from the public? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? No one? There's no response from the applicant. Mr. Flipiak, do you have anything on this?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll ask Ms. Mitchell to kind of give council a little review of the contents of the CUP, and also, I think, probably some comment on the initial reason for council's call-up. Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, the original application that the Planning Commission considered at their May meeting was for the purposes of expanding their existing restaurant that is currently 3,300 square feet and adding an additional 2,200 square feet of floor area with an expansion of the outside patio area along the front of the building. So with the review of this particular application, we took into account all of the conditional use permits that we had on record for this particular address and for the restaurant itself, which is why it was a little bit more of a convoluted approval because we broke it down into the conditional use permit for the restaurant itself, conditional use permit for the outside dining, and then also conditional use permit for the temporary events, so that we made sure everything was current with regard to the transfer of the proper ownership name into Kelsey's name, as well as acknowledging the fact that the restaurant area was now being expanded as well as the outdoor patio area. As part of the review, we did take into account, and there was discussion at the Planning Commission level on the parking that is currently available on site. And as part of the staff report we indicated that the use itself, the restaurant only requires, per code, about 85 parking spaces. With the addition of the expanded outdoor patio, that went down to 83 spaces. But taking into account the rest of the tenants in the building, the number of spaces that's required overall per code goes up. It's higher. It's actually about 154 spaces. We also acknowledged, though, in the report that the parking over time has appeared to be sufficient because of the offset of the hours of operation of all of the tenants within the building. Billy's is pretty much the primary tenant that has the evening hours, with maybe the exception of the salon, which might have some extended evening hours, but not to the extent that Billy's has. So while we did recognize by the numbers, the space itself might have been just insufficient, we had on record actual letters from the adjoining property owners that had been provided back in 2012 and I think 2015 that indicated that the restaurant was allowed to use their parking lots for shared means in the event that they needed to for any of their events. We did ask in the report that those letters be updated due to the date and nature of them, and specifically, one owner is no longer involved in the ownership. So we just had asked that those be updated. In this part of the discussion with the Planning Commission, the members of the Planning Commission took it a step further and wanted to have specific easements added that showed actual parking easements to show the shared parking, and then have that documented with the county. So that was how the actual condition under, specifically under the amendment of the conditional use permit for the restaurant, item 2, was modified. So that is what was before you, and that is, I believe, then the reason for the call-up.
Council, if I can add to that, the shared parking agreement, as Ms. Mitchell pointed out, we were simply recommending to the commission that the shared parking agreement simply maintain in place and perhaps get updated. It's worth noting that at least one other tenant in that building at 7328, who also has a conditional use permit, has a condition which simply states a shared parking agreement shall be executed with an adjoining property. So it's consistent. What the administration was recommending is consistent with what is in place at least one other tenant there. As Ms. Mitchell pointed out, they are primarily a business that operates at its capacity after hours, after normal business hours. If you consider that they would have access to the majority, if not all of that parking area, the 85 spaces that exist there would probably be adequate. So we're okay with eliminating the parking easement requirement. Historically, there's been no problem we've received. I don't think we've ever had a complaint from any of the adjoining property owners about being dissatisfied with the mutual agreements that are already in place. So for what it's worth, we would recommend removing the easement requirement.
Council, you are in receipt of all the correspondence received pertaining to this matter. This public hearing is adjourned. We are going to move into new legislation, which is ordinance number 22-0-038.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of conditional use permits to allow an expanded restaurant/bar, expanded outdoor dining/drinking area, and for temporary events located at 7338 Industrial Park Boulevard, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flipiak?
Thank you, Mr. President. As council reviews this, again, the administration's only recommendation would be to maintain all conditions recommended by the Planning Commission, with the exception of the sentence under item 2 for the conditional use permit pertaining to the expansion itself. removing the parking easement requirement, so the last sentence in item 2.
Council, any comments?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kirschner.
I would move to amend and strike the last sentence in paragraph 2 of the conditional use permit requirement under Exhibit A.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mr. President, I would move to suspend as amended.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mr. President, I would move to approve as amended.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 22-0-038 is approved. Ordinance number 22-0-039.
An ordinance to authorize transfers of funds, advances of funds, and revisions to appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this ordinance firstly authorizes a permanent cash transfer from the city's general fund, predominantly to fund $3.45 million of cash to the medical self-insurance fund. That represents one half of the year. It also funds the payroll stabilization fund. Secondly, and a temporary cash advance, also out of the city's general fund, is authorized to cover the cost of fees to the Menor Avenue Culvert project. And then finally, or thirdly, there are 3 appropriation revisions as noted in the staff memo. $45,000 for elevator maintenance consulting costs, and $10,000 payroll stabilization fund, and a little bit less than $45,000 on the boardwalk project coming up. I would recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 22-0-039 is approved. Ordinance number 22-0-040.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to award a bid contract to Cunningham Paving Company for a Contract A and alternates 1 and 2 of the 2022 Mentor Facilities Paving Project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Swigger, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. 2 bids were opened on Friday, May 13th for the 2022 Mentor Facilities Paving Project. This project will provide for asphalt pavement repair and overlay of the Recreation Center parking lot on Heisley Road, driveway construction within the Mentor Cemetery consisting of 6 approximately 170-foot driveway segments interior to the cemetery, and an asphalt resurfacing of the multi-use path on Hopkins Road from Plains Road to Lakeshore Boulevard. The 2 bids range from a low bid of approximately $357,000 to a high bid of approximately $463,000. It's been determined that Cunningham Paving Company of Cleveland, Ohio submitted the lowest total bid of $356,933.22. The engineer's opinion of probable construction costs was approximately $297,000. The low bid was about 20% higher than the engineer's estimate. This was due primarily to 2 factors: rising petroleum costs affecting the price of trucking for excavated material and for the price of asphalt material. Curbing costs were also underestimated due to the nature of the curb work in the Recreation Center parking lot being a lot more labor-intensive than that of linear roadway projects. Review of the bid from Cunningham Paving indicates it's in conformance with all bid requirements, and it's therefore recommended that a contract be awarded to Cunningham Paving, who are experienced and qualified to perform the work, in the amount of $356,933.22, and the scheduled completion date for the project is August 26th of this year. Thank you.
Council, if I can just tack on to that comment, the additional curbing is primarily to add landscape islands within the Heisley recreation center parking lot, which, as you know, is in very bad shape, needs repaving and some base repair, but also we thought we'd green it up a bit in the process.
Thank you. Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 22-0- Is that the right one?
4-1.
041 is approved.
4-0, sorry.
That's okay. Ordinance number 22-0-042.
No, we're on 4-1.
4-1. 4-1?
4-0 is approved.
Sorry. Ordinance number 22-0-041.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to award a bid contract to A&J Cement Contractors, Inc. for Contract B of the 2022 Mentor Facilities Paving Project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Swigger, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. One bid was opened on Friday, May 13th for Contract B of the 2022 Meadow Facilities Paving Project. This project will provide for full-depth concrete replacement of the front driveway area of Fire Station Number 5 on Civic Center Boulevard. The bid received for the base bid was $108,675. It's been determined that A&J Cement Contractors of Euclid, Ohio submitted the lowest total bid of $108,675. The engineer's opinion of probable construction cost was $107,000. A review of the bid from A&J Cement Contractors indicates its conformance with all contract requirements. It's therefore recommended that a contract in the amount of $108,675 be awarded to A&J Cement Contractors who are experienced and qualified to perform this work. The scheduled completion date for the project is August 26th of this summer. Thank you.
Counsel, what's your pleasure?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 22-0-041 is approved. Ordinance number 22-0-042.
An ordinance amending Part 15, Section 1509.01 of the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor, 2006, as amended, to revise regulations related to the possession, sale, and discharge of fireworks and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll defer to Mr. Zima.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of council. This stemmed from your recent work session, and the goal in this rework of 150901 was to maintain the status quo relative to current prohibitions relative to discharge, sales of fireworks within the city, but to update it to harmonize it with some revisions to the Ohio Revised Code. For example, limited possession is now lawful in the state of Ohio, and so the outright possession is something that did need to be updated. So we sort of took 150901A, which kind of threw everything into the mix, and divided that into different subsections so that now you may lawfully be in possession in the city. Discharge is still prohibited, and the revision makes it clear that the city is exercising its not just prerogative under the revised code, but also its home rule authority. And then sales at retail is then maintained as well. And then the final, the prohibition under state code actually makes many of these violations a first-degree misdemeanor. The prior code the current code in the city is a fourth-degree misdemeanor. So the degree of offense was also proposed to be increased to first-degree misdemeanor, again, to harmonize that with state code. And then finally, the definitions are updates so that we're harmonizing the definitions used under this code with state statute as well. That's going to, I think, necessary to avoid a lot of confusion moving forward. So if there's any questions.
Thanks for your work on that. Counsel, anything?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 22-0-042 is approved. Ordinance number 22-0-043.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Claire Global Integration LLC for the purchase and installation of a new audio system at the amphitheater and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, the city received 2 bids for the replacement of our amplification system for the Mentor Municipal Civic Amphitheater. Claire Global Integration LLC was the low bidder at $284,745. We did take a very close look at both bids. Actually, the low bid, we feel, is the superior bid in addition to being the low bid. The proposal includes the entire replacement of the house speaker system, power amplifiers, switches and signal processing equipment, a new mixing console, new stage monitors, as well as microphones, related equipment, and some small equipment required to move the speakers about. So we think it's a good bid. We did budget $280,000 for this purpose, so it actually came in pretty close to our estimate, which is sort of a small miracle with anything today when you're making these estimates a year ahead of time. The good news is we feel as though we've talked to the bidder, and he feels as though we might be able to get this equipment in as the majority of it, if not all of it, as early as being ready for the 4th of July concert. So that would be our aim. Hopefully that works out. It's also worth mentioning that Claire Global is the former 8-Day Sound, who we've been working with, who put the original system in, who has been great to work with, very professional, so we have a pretty high level of confidence. This system is sized appropriately, which is to say it's going to last a lot longer, and it's really meant to fit a performance venue of our size. The one we originally fitted out was probably a little undersized, but then again, no one anticipated the size of the crowds and the success that we would have there. So it's our recommendation to move forward with this bid.
Mr. Flippia, I have one question, I guess. The old equipment, is it just trash now?
No.
Can they refurbish it, or do you trade it in or get anything for
So
it?
some of it has already failed and been repaired, just again because of age and you know, the way you push these is very different than what you'd see in a home stereo system of what you're accustomed to. This is the highest level professional sound equipment. We will use most of it. Some of it will stay behind here, so the monitors are still okay. Some of the subwoofers will stay here as well. But some of the speaker arrays that you see out in front will be moved over to the ice arena,
Okay.
which really doesn't have much of an amplification system. So it'll be a nice upgrade there, and it will be more than satisfactory for the needs. It'll never be pushed there, obviously, as it is every performance here.
Thank you. Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 22-0-043 is approved. Second readings, we have none. Third readings, we have none. Managers report.
Thank you, Council. Lake County Household Hazardous Waste Collection will be held Saturday, June 11th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Lake County Fairgrounds. For a complete list of accepted and prohibited items, please visit the county's website. Or you may also call the Solid Waste District with any questions. The city is pleased to report that members from the Mentor Police and Fire Departments will be assisting the Junior Women's Club of Mentor with Safety Town during the week of June 6th to the 10th and June 13th through the 17th. Safety Town is an awareness program to teach young children safety while providing parents with peace of mind, and includes classes on fire safety, stranger danger, poison prevention, as well as an outside mini town with instruction on pedestrian, traffic, and bike rules. So it's nice to be able to get back to that post-COVID. The Mentor Farmers Market returns next Friday, June 17th at Garfield Park from 2 to 6 p.m. It will run through September 23rd. And of course, Council, tonight marks the start of our annual Mentor Rock series. Join us tonight and every Tuesday evening from 7 to 9 p.m. through August for some of the best live music in Ohio. And finally, Council, we have 3 new businesses that we want to recognize in our city. 101 Mobility Incorporated at 7471 Tyler Boulevard. Family Companion Animal Care Center at 8250 Tyler Boulevard. And Serenity Integrative Med Spa at 7511 Mentor Avenue. So we thank them for their investment and wish them great success going forward. That's all.
Fantastic, thank you. I got a question on the, how's the lifeguard situation?
Improved.
Good.
Yeah, we have, I want to say we have 23 or 4 at this point. I think all the good media attention that's been given to that problem is helped. Obviously, it's nowhere near what we would like to have, but it should be enough to keep Civic Center open for the season.
Thank you. One more question. We've been talking about the curbs on Mentor Avenue from 615 to the mall, like going by the Garfield home and the library and all that. I see there's paint down, and it looks like we're getting on that now. We're going to replace some of those 2 or 3 foot sections that are actually out of they're gone. There's no curb there. Matt, do you have anything on that? I don't know if you guys painted them or somebody else. Dave? Not sure.
working on that.
Somebody painted them.
I know we've had purchase orders out to 2 different contractors since last year, and I believe one of them was the company that's doing the city's concrete work.
So
And he
they'll probably-
indicated when he's in here doing this year's cement work, he'd also be doing the curbing work, so
Okay, I
I'm
think we
hopeful that it
mentioned.
would be him.
Thank you. I think we mentioned the last meeting or the meeting before that we had $40,000 aside for that or something in that range.
We have one $40,000 purchase order and another $20,000 purchase order to a second company.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's just a little beat up right now. Thanks a lot. Clerk's correspondence. Nothing to report. Commission committee reports, meeting minutes, municipal planning, May 5th, 2022. Old business, we have none. New business, we have none.
Mr. President?
Well, Mrs. Dowling, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment. I wanted to commend the administration and the police department for the 9 p.m. routine shout out. You know, we had such a long, miserable winter, and I think everybody just came home from work, pulled their car in the garage, closed the garage door, and that was it. And then all of a sudden, we have nice weather, it stays late. It's very easy to forget to close that garage door and to lock up. So I think the timing was perfect. I have to admit, the first night, I went out at 9:30 when I saw it. So anyway, I just wanted to commend them, because we hear people and they complain about all the break-ins in different communities all over Lake County, and they realize that they need to do their part too by keeping their vehicles locked and keeping their garage doors closed. So I just wanted to commend you. Timing was perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Persons before council, we have none. Council,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
meeting is adjourned.
6 minutes.